Hi, everybody. Welcome to our discussion on the Sentai 2020 trademark reveal. I'm Matt Hunt at The Real Matt Hunt on Twitter, also known as Dukemon, and I have with me a very special guest.
Hey, everybody. It's Kevin from R the Streets, a.k.a. Kyoto Uzio.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin, for joining me on the call to discuss the new Sentai.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I mean, hey, it's been a while since we've done this, so
Yeah,
it's great.
right? I think almost 1 year to the day.
Yeah, I mean, we've had that, and we did a couple with the toys for Ryusoulger, but we haven't done this in a while, so I'm glad to be back and speculating and rumorizing everything. Is that even a word? It's a word now.
It's a word now. Exactly.
Yes.
You made it. So, Kevin, did you know that Sentai was canceled?
I heard everybody telling me that it was doing so bad that it was canceled, and I was like, oh no, what are we going to do? And then this trademark dropped, and I was like, wait a minute. Everybody told me it was canceled.
It's not canceled. So here's before we go into the discussion on the name, which people have been kind of excited for, and that's cool.
But it's probably gonna be dinosaurs again, so don't get your hopes up.
Right, exactly. It's just dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I have had a problem with that leak that had come out before Ryusoulger since it came out, just because it came out and the way that it was posted, it sort of instigated everybody doomsaying.
Right, and then and people have been saying for a while that, oh, I don't know how much longer Sentai can last, for a while, but this really drove it in the minds of people. And I think the fact that what we got this year was kind of seems like a move of desperation almost. Yeah. Basically copying one of their most
popular shows.
Right.
I don't think the leak was lying. Obviously, he knew what he was talking about. But I do think that the person who posted it was not a native speaker of English.
Right.
And I think the phrasing sort of was taken the wrong way.
Yes.
It's a TV show, so any TV show at any time can be canceled, even if it is doing well. If the toy decides that they don't want to do it anymore, then they stop doing it. It's not something the fans can control. It's how TV works. We gotta, we can support the show, and that's really all we can do.
Right.
But the good news is Ryusoulger is an improvement over what Loopat did. So
and it helps that they're two drastically different shows. That, I mean, while I feel like Ryusoulger hasn't had heavy toys coming out, like nowhere near Kamen Rider levels of toys, we're already back into the swing of things where it's a new Progrise key every week, and that's just crazy. Where Ryusoulger is, I think we're at that point where at least, last month we had 2 toys. Well, we were kind of at okay, it's a couple toys a month. And then we got to the point where it was, oh, hey, it's 2 toys a month. And now I think for the rest of the year, it's 1 toy a month, which is still surprising to me. But it's more than we got with Loopat, because Loopat very much was, the collectible gimmick was the mecca.
Very light.
Yes.
Right. No, I think the plan going forward, regardless of how well Sentai is doing, is because it's not as popular as Kamen Rider. That's a factual statement. It's not. It doesn't sell as well as Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider makes a lot of money.
Yeah. You
that's
look at
not
the premium
towards Sentai or Kamen Rider. It's just, that's the way it is. Kamen Rider appeals to a wider audience over there. Sentai's really focused on a younger demographic, so that's just how it works. And I think their plan, which is really a good thing going forward, is we are going to make lower cost toys that cost us less to make, and we're going to make less in the long run, but comparatively it's actually a decent profit. So right now we're almost at what Q Ranger sold, with selling much less toys.
And I think, and you also can see, and I don't know if Loopat was a cause of this, because Loopat was such a different season. It was very much like Go Busters, where things were done very differently out of the norm. And then you had after both seasons, the dinosaur season with the huge toy line come in. Well, I say huge, but the bigger toy line come in. You know, we don't. This is the second year we don't have a final big like not cluster, but like a big bulky mecha, like a Brachio or a Orion Battler. I almost said Orion Butler because that's what HLJ has it as Orion Butler.
I only call it Orion Butler. So.
Okay, good, because that's honestly I called it forever and I kind of forgot its real name. But we don't see that. We haven't seen individual weapons since Tokyuger, I think. Right. So and I don't count Q Ranger. I don't count Q Ranger because it was one weapon that could change. Right.
So the whole thing, and this will, I guess, color the discussion too, is with Japan being the way it is, you have a couple of different things happening. You have birth rates declining, which means less kids. That's a fact. That's a scientific fact. It's a sad thing. It's a big deal for the country. Yeah. So that's happening, right? And if Sentai's only focused on kids, and there's less kids, it's gonna do poorer than something that is open to all demographics. That's just how business works.
Yeah.
On top of that, Japanese homes, especially Tokyo homes, are very small.
Yeah.
So toys like Orion Battler or Orion Butler they don't fit anywhere.
Right. Especially
a lot of fans like the cluster combinations, and I love them too. But have you tried to get Engino G12 on a shelf?
It's a bit of a hassle to do so, and I don't even own it. I remember seeing it in person. Like fully assembled at Morphicon last year at Mr. S's booth from CS Toys. And I'm just like, wow, that thing is huge. It's huge.
Actually, so this is the new room for people who are used to my old setup. I broke it down because it's easier just to store the robots by themselves. It's a giant combination. That kind of thing it's not that the kids don't like it, it's that the parents who are buying the toys don't want to buy a toy that's going to take up that much room.
Right, and I think that's why, Orion Butler, the final combination with Orion Butler was it sitting down. Yep. With, there's that, and then before that, I'm trying to think, but like we had like Tokyo Rainbow, and then, I'm trying to think in order, and then not Samurai Ha-Oh, whatever the Ninja one was called. Whatever that was, it was kind of sitting down, so it wasn't as tall.
Yep.
Ryusoulger was, it wasn't that big. I mean, it was tall, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that ridiculous. And then, and then we got Q Ranger, which, I mean, I'll be honest, I think Orion Butler is my least favorite mecha in that line.
Yeah. So I like the concept in the show.
I do too.
And I don't hate the toy. Like I don't regret owning it. But
Me neither.
As far as having, like, it doesn't use the space that it takes up in
effectively
a worthwhile way.
Right.
It's just big. It's a cool design, but it doesn't really do anything for the rest of the toys.
Right. And in a show where you have 12 Rangers, you would kind of hope it would.
Right.
I mean, at least, like, I was going to say, at least Rainbow, while you have like a bunch of pieces left over, it uses everything. At least with, Ryusoulger, while it doesn't use like a handful of pieces, at least it brings it all together in a meaningful way.
There's a build up.
Yeah.
So I think and the other thing too, like toys, Orion Battler was like on sale for like 2,000 yen. Right in the aftermarket in Japan.
Wow, really?
So, yeah, like it was really. I might be like exaggerating, but it was a big difference from what it sold as. So you have to consider they spent all this money to make this giant robot
with electronics inside of it.
Electronics, and then no one really buys it, and so it gets brought down in price. I mean, the Loop Hat toys were on sale in different low-cost stores for like silly amounts. Like it was really bad. So I think we've rebounded, and that's good because we see a new trademark. I am glad that it came out just because I was getting sick of people asking me if Sentai was canceled. As you know, I work for Toei and Bandai, and I am fully qualified to answer that.
I mean, I think it also doesn't help that Ryusoulger started later this year, so therefore, this show is going to start. What is it, Kirameiger? Is that how you say it?
So yes, let's get that out of the way.
So I feel like so real quick, I feel like because it starts later, we're going to get the trademark probably a little later than we normally get it, but we have it now.
So yes and no.
Right. At least that was my thought going into waiting for the trademark, that we might have to wait a little bit longer.
Right. So there's definitely a reason to that. But at the same time, we got the Ninja trademark, the latest we've ever gotten it, and that premiered in February. So
okay.
It's more a product of when they decide upon the name and apply for the trademark than it is when the show airs.
Okay.
But because the show airs in March, they have more time to apply for the trademark, if that makes sense.
So does that mean that we could possibly, and I don't know if, I guess it really depends, but does that mean we could be seeing the toy scans in January instead of, I mean, granted, Reeves will be in December like we normally do.
Just because we're definitely getting them in that first week of December, like we did for Ryusoulger.
And every year before.
And every year before. Just because the way that those toys work, they need to put the orders in 2 months, 3 months ahead.
Okay, well, that makes sense, and I didn't think that that would be a case where we'd be seeing it later, but I figured it's still a valid question to ask for those out
absolutely. There. I mean, in the future they might elect to do that if Sentai had ever like drifted into a second quarter premiere.
Yeah,
then you might see that.
Man. Right.
The problem is the reason they do it in December, I think, for the first, because it is an actual physical meeting that first time.
Yeah.
I think they do it because it's the end of the calendar year. And it's a good way to like get your wholesalers together and kind of go on a united front. Because remember, they, as of Christmas, even though they don't reveal the cast anymore, there's always an article in like the official newspapers about the show. So if you don't have that toy catalog in stone, you're spoiling stuff with the news articles and you're kind of hitting your advertisement late.
Right.
Even though that said, last year we got the Psycho battle in those newspapers with that cast announcement. So it's going to depend. As far as I am seeing, the December date is where we'll get the catalog.
Okay, good to know, and especially for those who might have been questioning it because we haven't had Sentai debut in March since, what was it, Car Ranger or Mega Ranger? It was something around there.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, like I said, nothing is set in stone. We randomly got the second quarter for Kamen Rider.
Yeah,
when we
like
weren't
really
expecting it.
Yeah.
Usually that would come out this week, next week.
Yeah.
So nothing is definite, but they wouldn't trip themselves up by moving that. I don't think, because it's the first meeting.
It's the big unveiling.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about the names.
Sure.
So the trademark dropped in 12 a.m. Japan time Tuesday, so it was Monday 11 o'clock in the morning, I think.
Something like that.
And the name of the show is Mashin Sentai Kirameiger.
Kirameiger. I like that a lot more than Kirameiger. So.
Yeah, Kirameiger. So Kira, like the name we're not supposed to say anymore from Dino Thunder.
Right.
May as in the month, and then Kirameiger.
Fun.
Yeah.
When you said Majin at first, it sounded like Mashin, and I was like, oh, they're adapting Emo Rangers in Japan. Yes.
Right. So that's the confusing thing. When Mashin and Majin, when you're saying them, even for like translators, are very close.
Right.
So the Japanese word Majin, like Majin from Magi Ranger.
Mm-hmm. Or the Imagin. Does that have a?
Right. Exactly. That's demon and or magical being.
Right.
This is not that kanji, but that kanji can be pronounced Mashin as well. So this kanji breakdown, right now, we know nothing about the show except the title.
Yeah.
We can just kind of make educated guesses. The Mashin is demon, advancement, or magical advancement. The magical is a little bit more forced. Basically, that part is otherworldly. So Ma is demonic or witch or magic, that kind of thing.
Okay.
The Shin is from the Japanese verb susumu, which means to move forward, to advance. There's a billion Sentai songs that are Susume, whatever the team name is. That's really what it is. It's move out, advance, that kind of thing. So that part probably points to some kind of cars or vehicles, just because of the way that it sounds in Japanese.
Gotcha.
And then you have magic and you have vehicles kind of teased in that first part, or demons and vehicles. That same kanji is actually used in Kamen Rider Drive for Mashin Chaser.
Okay.
So it's the exact same spelling.
Good to know. And then Sentai is Sentai.
Right, exactly. And then the name Kirameiger, right now, just based off of what the kanji is, we're thinking that it's Kirame is probably taken from Kirameku, which is to glitter, to shine, to sparkle. Anything of that category. The Mage in Major is mage, like magicians.
Okay.
And then Major is from Rangers. So the full title is something like Demonic Advancement Task Force Shining Mage Rangers.
So, to me, what this sounds like is Magi Ranger meets Go-Onger.
And that's what it sounds like to me, too. And that's what a lot of people are putting together. Because Mashin sounds kind of sort of like what they did with Engine.
Yes.
It's a different concept. It's not forming... Well, it is forming technically a word in English, because you can say that Mashin, like Mashin Chaser, sounds like machine.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. Like Engine Sentai, Go-Onger, and their Zords or the mecha are the engines. I could see the Mashin being their mecha this coming year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into rumors that have already started to show up, because
oh boy,
that's how it works. And we'll talk through it. There's two main rumors. But first, I just want to go through the name and just your opinion on it.
So I like it a lot, and immediately, like when I was talking to you on Twitter and we were breaking down the name and stuff like that, the fact that you have like it could be like magical creature vehicles or like or something like that. Like I know Digimon was being thrown around, and I haven't watched a ton of Digimon, but it sounds like it could be something along those lines, which could be cool. Like you could have maybe something along the lines of what they did in Ninja, where you have mecha that are all like you. Well, okay, so you have Go-Onger where they're mecha and they're animals, but then you have like a ninja aspect where you could combine those mecha and make like a dragon out of it or something like that, because I think the fact that we have possibly having wizards again for the first time since Magi Ranger, I think, having that combinable dragon again, would be something that they would kind of try to do, especially after everybody thought that Ryusoulger was going to be dragons. So that's actually
a cool idea, just because it would maybe explain part of the reason they went with dinosaurs. Maybe if there was dragon representation in the series after, they didn't want to overkill it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Because I know a lot of American fans are into dragons, and not that Japanese fans aren't. But it's a Western. There are Asian dragons, and there are Western dragons, and Asian dragons. They only kind of make one kind of mecha.
Yeah,
like it's Q-Ranger and Die-Ranger. That's the mecha you're getting with the Asian dragon.
And the only other time we really had dragons are Magi Ranger, and that was a very Western dragon. And then you had the one in Ninja, and that was more Western because he was a wizard. He was basically at Hogwarts.
Right.
So it makes sense that he would have like a European kind of dragon.
And then Go Sager too. Go Sager's dragon was a Western dragon.
That's true. I forgot about that.
You know, it's not like we haven't had dragons. I think just everybody wanted a dragon team.
Yeah.
I'm still on the fence of whether or not you can have a dragon team and have it be as interesting physically as a dinosaur team.
I don't think you can. And I think that's just because the lack of different dragons out there, where say what you want about Ryusoulger, like Mill Needle. Well, it's not a Stegosaurus, but it is a Stegosaurus. You know, when it comes, if they'd had Ryusoulger over here, it's going to be the Tyrannosaur, it's going to be the Stegozord, it's going to be the Tiger, either the Tiger Zord or the Saber Zord or the Sabertooth Zord. Like everything, you can point to it and say, I know they might be saying that this is not like a normal dinosaur, but this is what dinosaur this represents.
Right.
So
right, exactly.
And
the other thing, I think based on those leaks that had come out prior to Ryusoulger, the idea was that the mecha that became Kirameiger was the one and only dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like we were going to get a team of dragons.
Which I don't know how you can do that with just so many.
I think the idea, as far as I'm reading the leaks, the idea was that the team was going to have one mecha like Kirameiger. And it would have been a gold dragon, and all the suits would have been gold. That was the part of that leak. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if it's from the same poster, but that was the idea. And while I think gold things sell, I think that might have been a little bit too repetitive for an entire team to all be gold and just have the one dragon there. But as far as Kirameiger having a dragon, I think it's definitely possible.
Be it whether one of the Rangers is a dragon or I could see them doing something along the lines of Ryuteo. No, is it Ryuteo? Whatever the Die Ranger is, where
Ryuseo.
Ryuseo. There you go. I could see Red having a dragon that changes into a humanoid, and then the other four can combine into a dragon. And then combine around him, just like in Die Ranger. I could see that being a thing. But I don't see. Again, I mean, I think while wishful thinking with dragons, and I'm sure a fan out there could create a great dragon-based team using different dragons. Dragons are not as well as known as dinosaurs. Like,
correct.
I've learned so much about dinosaurs, and like my friends have learned so much about dinosaurs just from Power Rangers in general. Yep. So like, you know, you can have, you know, I mean, geez, we've had a Pachycephalosaurus 3 times now. Like, it's a recognizable dinosaur, you know. Yep. We've had so I just feel like it's just not that it's a safer bet, but it's like you know what you're getting into with dinosaurs. Like you kids know dinosaurs. Kids don't know dragons. Kids don't say that's a Western dragon, that's an Asian dragon. Kids say that's a dragon.
Definitely, they don't know them as well, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's move into the rumors that I have found thus far.
Okay. And I'll real quick, the fact that it'd be wizards again, the fact that we could be doing wizards again, I'm all for it. I think we're long overdue for another wizard team.
So the interesting thing is, I think I don't want to say definitely, because then people will quote me. The way that the name is, wizards are going to be involved in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
What that capacity is, we can't know.
Right. We got two. We'll find out in 2 months.
Right. The mage is in the name, the team name, and then the demon magic characters and the kanji magic users of some kind is going to be in the show.
Right. But we'll get into our speculations with that. Let's hear other people's speculations.
Right. Okay. So the first couple of rumors we got were before the trademark even dropped, and it was our usual the hints that drop on 5CH on the Japanese boards, and there's no way to verify if these are legit. I can just say from my experience, they look like the hints should look.
Yeah.
As far as what has been legit in the past. The only thing about the hints, as always, they're not really anything to latch onto.
Yeah.
It's just sort of this is the hint, and once the show comes out, maybe you'll be able to make a connection. As an example, we got Spider-Man as a hint for 01. And he's a young man who runs around in a bug costume and makes jokes. So it's Spider-Man, but you don't really learn anything from that hint other than the hint giver's opinion, if that makes sense.
You could take Spider-Man several different ways, and most people are going to take it very literally, saying that he's a spider-based rider who is red, black, and blue.
Exactly. So these couple hints, and I'll probably skip a couple of them just from not remembering them. But the big ones that I really latched onto, we got two different sets of hints. The first hint was, I believe, past, present, future, and then black is a girl.
That very black is a girl rumor, hasn't that been a rumor for a while now?
It has. It's the first time that I've seen it as a hint.
Okay.
It's been a rumor since Gokaiger because they were giving the girls black, black outfits.
Speaking of Magic, real quick, Kotetsu Toys just put up the Magic King Complete Edition sealed on his website, and I was like, ooh, but it's $450, and I was like, never mind.
Yeah, it was expensive when it first came out, actually, because it's die-cast, so it's well, not die-cast, but it's got some like the paint apps are very different from the regular toy.
Yeah, I'm just saying we were on Magic and that popped up, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna.
It's actually a good notation because the reason I think this makes sense for them, you had said the title makes you think of Go-Onger plus Magi Ranger.
Right.
Go-Onger is one of the highest selling Sentai, and Magi Ranger's Magic King is one of the highest selling Sentai toys.
Is it?
Yeah, well, comparatively. So it's definitely one of the highest selling mechas. And that's why we got that complete edition. It sold so well.
That's cool.
So it's sort of not a head scratcher that you would go to Go-Onger and Magi Ranger for another series, and it's also the Magi Ranger 15th anniversary next year.
There you go with your anniversaries.
Yep. Always something being celebrated.
Yeah, that's true.
Back to the hints. So we have past, present, future. Black Ranger is a girl.
Mm-hmm.
In retrospect, now knowing the trademark, black being a girl is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the idea of a witch.
True. Like this could be maybe like a Geizorg kind of situation, or I can't think of her name. She was Necroli in Power Rangers, but.
It'll come to me.
Whatever she was in Magi Ranger.
Vancuria?
Yeah.
Naya Maya.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think of it like that. I guess I just went with the assumption of the Black Ranger is a girl, but they could have a Black Ranger that isn't on the team that's a girl.
That's true. Maybe like a Magi Mother kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, very possible. But in any case, it could also be something that we are not even thinking of, and it's just, there's the hint, and when the show comes out, we'll know. I think before Loop Pat dropped, we got a couple of really interesting hints that ended up being true, but they were all basically coded. So it was basically like the loop, like the one team has spinny things, and the other team has things that shoot, and that was the hint. And that, I mean, it was obviously real,
right?
But it made no sense at the time. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about,
right?
So another set of hits came out, allegedly by the same person. And they once again repeated past, present, future. They put history.
Okay.
Which you could go a couple of different ways with that. Is it history because there's Japanese mythology? Is it history because we're doing Go-Onger and Magi Ranger Redux?
Right.
Many, many things. That ties into past, present, future too. Is it because we're doing homages to past teams, all that. And then two more concrete hints were Hanko, which is, I put out on my Twitter a picture of mine, just so that people knew what I was talking about. It's it's a little cylinder. It's about this big. And it has your personal symbol on the bottom of it.
Okay.
And in Japan, when you sign legal documents, for example, when I open my bank account, you have to sign with this stamp.
Okay.
And it's like your signature in Japan. You basically can't do anything without one of these.
Gotcha.
But they're also a valuable souvenir.
Okay.
So if you go into souvenir shops in Japan, it'll have like personalized your Hanko kind of thing.
Right.
So my thought at the time was this is maybe our collectible. Now with the trademark drop, I'm thinking it could still be the collectible, or they were trying to say wand without saying wand.
Oh.
Because the shape is basically a wand.
Right.
It's a stick. And then with the symbol, I mean, you can kind of, even Mage Ranger kind of had the same thing. They had the staff with their personal symbol on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that being a thing.
That's true. That's it. Hey, like I was thinking, like at first I thought of like the thing that the O Rangers or the Zeo Rangers would put into the Zeo cannon, like those little
the power crystal thing.
Battery, yeah. And then you said the symbol, and I was like, oh, kind of like the Mage Ranger have their each individual symbol, and then now it's all coming together.
Yeah. So I think maybe. And then the last hint out of that group was Digivice.
Huh. Now, I don't know too much about Digimon, so...
Right. So what this, again, at the time, my brain went to two places.
Mm-hmm.
Either they were saying the Henshin device literally looks like a Digivice, which is possible. It's basically, it looks like a beeper. Like, it's not too complicated. Or they're saying that the team has a similarity to Digimon.
Which you could say the Majin could be like their buddies in a sense, could basically kind of like Go-Langer, where you have these mecha that are also sentient, that are the partners of the Rangers.
Right, exactly. So if we're going another route with the Wizards, Mage Ranger kind of went hard on the Harry Potter side of things.
Yes, very different than what Wizard did.
Right, and they turned into their own mecha. If we're going with a partner-based thing, the term in Japan would be Skyma, which translates roughly to messenger, but it's basically a familiar.
Okay.
So if the Mashin are the Rangers familiars, it kind of ties back into that idea of Digimon and the Digivice. If maybe they're stored in their transformation devices, or if there's a device that stores them, if the team collects more. There's a lot of ways they can go with it.
Yeah.
So that's the hints. Anything else that sparked your interest from there before I move on to the rumors that I found today?
No. It all sounds really cool, but I've learned after, and I think I said this last year, but after Ryusoulger, you learn just like you say, take it with a grain of salt, because I was all set on the other rumor for Ryusoulger with the crowns and all that being Ryusoulger, and I was sorely disappointed when we got what we got. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, that'd be cool, and I can dream up all I want, but how much of it is actually going to be a thing?
Right. And that's an important thing for everybody listening to take in as well. Rumors are rumors.
It's fun to speculate, but take it in strides.
Right. Take the information in, enjoy the discussion, but don't marry yourself to any ideas, because
you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah. Regardless of however cool it is, it's never going to be cool as what you are imagining it to be. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So with the rumors I found today, they were basically what Mage Ranger plus Go Onger sounds like, which basically to me makes them sound fake just because of how easy it is to put it together from a fan perspective. But it's not impossible. So what I found today was a 5 Ranger team. Olympic colors.
Gotcha.
Which isn't a rumor. It hasn't been a rumor. It's basically speculation because the Olympics are next year.
Right.
And then with the following Go Onger, which was a rumor, you have the Go Onger colors, which are the Olympic colors.
Right.
So five Rangers Olympic colors. Red, blue, black are the men. Green and yellow are the girls. Red is a fox with fire powers, and the fox is mixed with a sports car.
Okay.
So what's interesting with these animals, they potentially tie to Japanese yokai.
Okay.
Which if you're calling something Mashin or Majin, it gives it a sinister sound.
Yeah.
So I don't
like
think
the Majin.
Right, exactly. So either we're going to get some kind of mythical beast, like dragons, like phoenixes, or we're going to get something more rooted in Japanese culture, like yokai. So red, fox, sports car, fire.
I mean, that sounds like red. That just sounds... Everything they said, other than fox, has been a thing for red.
Right. So
several times.
Fox, kitsune in Japanese folklore, shoot fire. It's sort of part of their whole deal. I even before I found this rumor, when I was hearing the Go Onger plus Mage Ranger stuff, I thought to myself, red as a fox would make a lot of sense because they're going to give red fire. And foxes shoot fire. If you're not going to give red a phoenix or a dragon, the next thing that jumps to my mind is a fox.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I think that would be cool. Also because you have 9-tailed foxes in Japanese folklore. And I can actually see in my head the tailpipes being the 9 tails.
That'd be cool.
This is why they should hire me. But moving on. I can see that. It's not like a big leap of logic.
Right.
You know? Next one up will be the blue. Blue is a water-based magic. Just like
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that blue would be water.
And then you have a turtle / submarine.
Okay. And that sounds kind of cool because have we, other than Hurricaneger, and it wasn't really a mecha, did we ever have a turtle?
We have
Shinkenger,
and we have Ninja, but Ninja's almost doesn't count.
Oh, I forget it. Yeah, that big tortoise thing. I forget so much about Ninja and Ghost Ager because I was so lost and just uninterested during the show.
Right. I mean, turtle, it's not like we haven't had it before, but we could stand to have more of them. I feel like it's a really popular animal and it doesn't get used nearly as much as it should.
Right.
Turtle would be able to tie into Kappa. Another yokai. Kappa is how I should be pronouncing it.
I think that okay, hold on. I'm gonna see if I can remember this correctly. Is it kind of like a turtle-like humanoid and it's got like its head is like a bowl?
Yep.
Okay. You want to know how I know that? I know that from Arthur because they talked about it on Arthur once.
Yes.
That's how I know that. That's really sad, but
Kappa we've had a couple of times in Super Sentai as villains. We had it in Ninja, we had it in Kakuranger. It's basically like a humanoid turtle. It's a ninja turtle with a water, a place for water on its head.
Yes.
Stopping there briefly, the reason I think we might be looking at yokai.
Okay.
Yokai Watch is a very popular thing in Japan.
I was going to say, when you say yokai, the first thing that comes to most people's mind is Yokai Watch.
Yep. It's not as popular anymore, but it's there.
Right.
And there's currently a lot of shows and games in Japan, as there always is, that deal with yokai in one form or another. Also, Digimon, the premise of Digimon is basically spun off from the idea of yokai.
That makes sense.
There's a whole lot of interconnect. The next ranger would be Green. Again, she would be a female. She would have a hawk, and her motif would be wind. Again, nothing that Sentai hasn't done before with Green. Not in Magic Ranger, but Ginger Green has wind as his element.
Yeah.
Hawk could be a couple of different yokai if you went that way. I think immediately of Tengu, which I guess technically a crow would be closer to a Karasu Tengu, but a bird is a bird.
If you're a fan of Power Rangers, you know what a Tenga is, or you know what Tengus are if you saw the movie. So
exactly. So basically that. It would make sense. The hawk would be a jet, so it wouldn't be as a big a departure as a Fox sports car.
Right.
But still cool. Then black would be a bear/truck.
Oh, a bear, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bear/truck, and the element would be steel.
Okay.
So that would be different. And then, as far as yokai, there's a couple of different yokai that a bear could be. Basically, there's one that's just called a demon bear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big bear. It's nothing exotic, but if they're going to do yokai, the mecha sort of have to be recognizable and cute. And not that they have to be like Gonger levels of anime eyes cute,
right?
But they do have to appeal to the kids.
Yeah,
so you can't have like a monstrous looking bear. You have to have a bear.
Gone are the days that we could get something. Even Gal Ranger.
Yep.
I feel like as much as I'd like an animal Sentai again, I don't think we'll ever get anything as organic yet mechanical looking and realistic as Gal Ranger.
I agree. I think that's just it's. If it looks as good and it's as fun as the Ryusoulger mecha, that's all I ask. I think we're far away from that aesthetic at this point. Last but not least, yellow would be a mouse/roller, like a road street roller. And her element would be ground.
Okay.
So, it's not a bad. If someone made it up, they have a very good imagination. I would buy those toys.
Imagination.
There you go. If this is, I don't think this is real.
No, I don't think. I think it sounds cool, but I feel like it's just like this is very wishful thinking.
Right. I will say though that again, the red being a fox, if it is a fire wizard. I mean, Pokemon did that.
Yeah.
A red fox that's a fire wizard.
I don't even know much about Pokemon, and I know that.
So it's not like a big leap in logic for that to be the case.
Right.
It would be kind of cool because we've never had Fox Mecha before. Not really.
Yeah, we really haven't.
We had the one bad robot in Ninja, but that was more of a humanoid than a fox, and it also didn't get a toy. So that would be cool. If they gave me, I'm pretty easy to please. If they gave me next year one new thing, and then the rest of the team was like old standbys, I think I'd be okay with that, especially if the new thing was for Red.
Yeah, because Red, they usually play it safe. Right. He's usually an eagle or a falcon or a hawk, or he's a lion or a tiger. I think Go Busters was one of those seasons where it's like, oh wow, he's a cheetah. That's different. While we've had cheetahs before, not for Red. Usually usually it's associated with like a female ranger.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting choice. And then, even with Magic Ranger, if we're taking things from Magic Ranger, Red was a phoenix, but he was still a bird.
Yeah.
And his robot wasn't it was, it didn't really look like a phoenix. It looked like a robot.
Right.
So
all of them did, and they had. I'd say Red was the biggest departure. At least with the other 4, you could tell. Oh, that's a mermaid. That's a minotaur. That's a Garuda. With the other, with him, it's just like, okay, I can kind of see Phoenix, but it's more of just a warrior.
Right. He was more of a. I mean, he basically played into what I'm expecting with like Mashin. He really personified that. He was a fire spirit. He wasn't really a phoenix.
Yeah.
His second mecha was a phoenix. It was a fire bird. But
yeah.
So Mage Ranger had a very interesting design aesthetic to it because Red had 2 mecha that were basically based on the same animal, and they looked completely different from each other.
Which is cool.
Very cool. I mean, it's kind of what Kaku Ranger did too. But in that case, like Red's, like the Shogun Megazord, Kaku Daishogun, his Zord there, it's a person with monkey features, and then he gets a monkey. So it's not like, it's not so far a departure. Magi Red, he has a humanoid robot, and then he has a full-on phoenix.
Right. I mean, all the Kaku Rangers, like mecha, are basically, they got a humanoid version of it, with a humanoid with that animal's features, and then they got that animal.
Right. I mean, while we're on that topic, I don't think that we would get humanoid mecha just because Ninja kind of killed the taste in people's mouths for those.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that makes sense because I know Ninja didn't do exactly wonderfully. And they did have. I see Ninja again. It's one of those Sentais where I just kind of forget things, and the fact that Power Rangers didn't release all the toys that were in the show also kind of gives that like forgetfulness. So like you forget. I forget at least that geez, we had 5 humanoids.
Yeah.
Like that's. And I don't think you can do humanoids in a impactful way. Like you can't do it like you did in Kaku Ranger anymore. That's just there's certain times for things, and we get past those things. And I think we are past the point of the generic, like very generic, like Kaku Ranger's mecha, very generic, very simple, and while they've done humanoid mecha before, I don't think, I don't think we're going to ever turn back around to something along those lines. Like we said, if it was around 10 years ago, we might get a very similar theme, but stylistically wise, like kind of like we said with the big, beefy mecha at the end of the season, I think that there are eras that are over. And I think the humanoid mecha era is kind of over to a degree. Not saying they won't do it ever again, but I don't see them doing it like they have done it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Q Ranger did it, but it was very different.
It's very, very different. The only way that I can see it working is if they did some sort of transformer. But unlike Ninja, where it was kind of, what are you looking at? It was maybe skewed more to Mugenbein, so they could continue with their Lego fascination from this year.
Right.
That's the only thing that I could see working, is if maybe we had like little robots, and then the little robots got pieces that attached to them, and it made a vehicle, and then the vehicle maybe can take the parts off, and you can make it into a fox or whatever, something like that. Basically, copying Mugenbein as you would see. I don't see another way to make the humanoid robots make sense.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I don't know. And then also, what do you think about us maybe never getting a 5-piece core robot again?
Now that's a hard one because I really like those.
I do too.
I really, geez, when was the last time we got one? I guess Q Ranger.
Q Ranger. But Q Ranger had a very
Kyuranger was different.
Specific caveat on the 5-piece robot.
Yeah, no, it was there was a reason for it. Whereas so not counting Kyuranger, the last time we got a 5-piece was Tokyo.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
No,
right?
Ninja.
Ninja.
Yeah. So it's been a while. Because I think
saying that Ninja is a little odd too.
Right. So Tokyo, I'd say, is the last one because it played into the gimmick of it. The 5-piece-ness played into the gimmick of I don't even know what Ninja's mecha is called. I can't even remember. Sure, Kenji.
Right.
So yeah, Tokyo. That was 2014.
Yeah,
that was a while ago. That was 5 years ago. And we've had, and it's not like we haven't had 5-member teams. We have.
Yep.
They've all just, if it's 5 mecha, it's more like a super formation at this point. And in a sense, and that makes sense given. I mean, you look at something like Gal Ranger. While it's a very cool mecha, you deconstruct the mecha, they're very small.
Yep.
Ninja, they were small. And
they looked so bad.
Yeah.
I kind of like the auxiliaries in Ninja. They're not the best, but they're kind of cool. The other 4 mecha besides Shinobi Maru in the core set are ugly. They're just ugly.
No, I agree. They're kind of atrocious, and it makes me not want to finish collecting that line. But that's a different discussion for another day.
Yeah.
I mean, I see. I was hoping for a 5-piece combo for Ryusoulger, because I wanted to. I was hoping instead of just a Kyuryuger rehash, it would be a dinosaur rehash in general, and we would have gotten, the 5-piece. We could have gone back to the core team forms the whole robo. So Abba Ranger, even though it was 3 pieces, and Ju Ranger all had full, every mecha. The core team had a full mecha with all their Zords. And you could kind of say that was the case with Ryusoulger, but now I guess the 5 are technically a team, even though. So, I was hoping for that, and then we would get auxiliary mecha that would peg onto it in some sort of way. Now, again, though, I feel like arm swapping is kind of over. Along with 5-piece mecha being the core robot, I feel like 5-piece mecha, or I'm sorry, arm swapping, just the Abba Rangers, and the Gal Rangers and the Bokengers. They're all and you could say, well, we got it with Kyuryuger. Kyuryuger was a little different, And you could I think the last time you could say that we got it was kind of with Tokyuger, but Tokyuger only had 4?
Yeah, and it wasn't
them
were arm swap really.
Yeah, it was. They had 2 arm swaps, and you never saw those arm swaps after like the first 10 episodes.
Nope. And even like with Lupat, it's arm swaps, but they're not really arm swaps because the arm
swaps stopped because they all had specific combinations that they went with. And while Gal Ranger had specific combos that they all went with, they utilized that arm swap gimmick. They had an episode where 2 mecha fought each other, constantly using the arm swap gimmick. Like, that's a very 2000s thing. We're past that point now. We're way past that. And I feel like we're never as much, and because it sucks, because that's what I grew up with, and that's what I loved, but I don't ever think we're going to get something to that degree again, and I think that's why I like one of the reasons I like Kyuryuger so much is because, yes, it's arm swap, but it's not arm swap, is it? Like, everything has its own place to be. Like, they use the arm swap, I think, very efficiently in the show, even though they didn't have many arms. They had like 4 arms, but Then they used it amongst the various mecha, but Kyoryujin was Kyoryujin. Spino Dio was Spino Dio. You know, Terra Western was Terra Western. But you know, you could see the swapping, but it wasn't. It wasn't like in Gal Ranger or Aba Ranger or Bokenger. And heck, I feel even in Bokenger, it stopped after a while. Like you didn't see it as much.
Yeah, you didn't really see it too much.
Right.
Here's my theory, and I could be wrong. And you can let me know your thoughts.
Sure.
I think Ryusoulger is an attempt to make Sentai more like Kamen Rider.
Okay.
And not in a thematic way, because I think Loop Hat was an attempt to make Sentai like Kamen Rider thematically.
Yes.
I think this is trying to make Sentai like Kamen Rider in a toyetic sense. Because you have many different forms.
Mm-hmm.
The forms are tied to the collectible.
Yes.
You have Sentai doing the Yudo series like Kamen Rider's Soto, and that started with Q Ranger, but didn't really pick up until Loop Hat.
Right.
And now it's really prevalent with Ryusoulger because of the different armors.
Yeah, are they doing Series 4 or 3?
Right. So, let's say like Kamen Rider 01 is the core of the 01 toy line, right?
Right.
And then you can buy different armors to put on his transformable figure.
Uh-huh.
I see Kishiryuo as the Kamen Rider of Ryusoulger.
Yeah, and then he has all these different bits you can throw on, and Neptune is the secondary rider, and Kishiryuji. Yeah, it's all very yes.
I think that's what they're going for, because I think the way that Loop Hat was designed, that Q Ranger was designed, and I love Q Ranger. I think the mecha fell a little bit by the wayside.
Yes.
Just because of the way that the gimmicks or lack of gimmick was.
Uh-huh.
Whereas in Ryusoulger, like it or hate it, Kishiryuo is front and center all the time.
And that's kind of the thing is you usually kind of have, I don't know how common it is. I mean, I bet I could backtrack and it's not as common as I think it is, but Red's mecha is, you know, hell, we even had it back in Die Ranger, even though there weren't auxiliaries. Red's mecha is the core component to this, and it's you need it, you know, in a sense. And you're right, it's very front and center, and I think it's the most front and center a Red mecha has ever been.
I mean, he's a character. Yeah, outside of the battles, he hangs around with them. He's kind of a tertiary mentor because they already have 2 mentors.
He's kind of like Bumper.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't see them doing this all this year, making the money, and then suddenly saying, "Hey, let's go back to 5-piece combinations."
Right.
I think it would have to be something very.
I think it'd have to be something very unique, for it to be. I think it would have to be a lot bigger. In a sense where you would put it next to Kishiryuo and it'd be like, oh wow, that's really big, because you would want to make the animals or whatever they go with bigger. And I think you would have to make it almost somewhat like Q Ranger, but I don't think we'll get something like that again where the arms and legs can you know,
be reversed.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's too soon. And nor do I think I think that's kind of one of those things, like you have certain things in certain seasons. It's like, that's something that's specific to that season. We'll never see that again. I almost want to say that might be one of those things that we won't ever see again.
Yeah.
To a degree. Like, you could technically do it with Ryusoulger, but that's not the purpose of Ryusoulger. The purpose of Ryusoulger is to throw everything together however you want. So anything could technically be a leg. Anything could technically be an arm. But when you have, I guess in a more uniform sense, because Ryusoulger isn't, the whole fun of it, and they even showed on the website, like you never see combos on the website or on the toy boxes that are not in the show. You never see that with Sentai. This year, you see that on the website, in the instructions. I can't remember, I don't have the boxes in front of me, but I'm sure on Kishiryu's boxes, it shows, look at all the fun crap you can do.
Yeah, basically whatever you want.
Yeah, and then again, that's kind of the purpose of the toy line, but it's also something new. Like, we're never going to have something like this again. I don't think we ever will.
Yeah, probably not.
It may be to a different degree, but we won't ever get anything Lego style or anything.
I think what they might end up doing, because I've noticed this trend for a couple of Sentai, Kishirio is, in a way, created by testing out the waters with Lupin Magnum from last year.
Okay.
Just the way that it's set up, you have a single red robot. It's sort of smaller, more mobile,
right?
And it's a different kind of robot than we're used to,
right?
I could see them continuing with the main robot is smaller. Maybe not as small as Ryusoulger, but I think keeping the same size, maybe as Kishirio.
Kind of like Buster Ace.
Yeah, I could see it being that small. I think we may get a multi-piece combination next year versus just Red's Mecha is the core, just to differentiate it.
I feel like we'll get, if it's true, let's say we go with the Olympic colors again, I feel like it'll be like red, blue, and yellow, and then there'll be that red, green, and black combination. You know, kind of like I hate to keep mentioning it, but kind of like Kyoryugen. You know.
Yep. No, I agree. I just think you don't want to. I don't think you want to go run away from what Kishirio did because it made money.
Right.
But you don't want to copy it entirely because then it's going to feel stale.
Right. And while this toy line is very Kyoryuger, it does not feel like, when I look at it, like I'm looking at all my mecha right now. I've got, 3 Knights with Pakigaru, and I've got Neptune with the Raptors, and I've got Kishiryujin with Dime Volcano. And then I look over at my shelf of what's left of my Kyoryuger mecha, because most of them are packed away because I'm moving soon. I don't see the same toy.
Right.
I see a lot of similarities. I see the similarities because of the colors, obviously. But I mean, I could take the red or the pink and the blue off of Kishirio and do whatever. And like all of these, they're similar to a degree to the other mecha. You have the same colors. Tobaspino is very similar to Kishiryujin, and Neptune is very similar to Terra Gordon, but they're not the same thing. It's not obvious. It's not 100%. To a casual fan, they wouldn't notice, I think.
Exactly. So I don't see it being the same thing, but I don't see us going back to that 5-piece combination like we used to have.
Maybe for a final mecha. Maybe for something like that we could get it. And it would have to be bigger, I think. It would have to. I can't think of anything. I mean, other than the Ninja, I'm not too sure like anybody else has done that in recent history.
Yeah,
but I feel like that's the only, and I feel like they'd have to do something clever with it, because we're past the point. Like we said earlier did we say, I don't know. We talked so much before this. I can't remember if we said this I think we said it. Orion Butler was pointless in a sense. Okay. Yeah. I could have remember if that was before or after we started recording, but I feel like it's going to have a purpose. So if we get a 5-piece combination, it's going to have to interact with all the auxiliaries, or it's also going to have to interact with 6th Ranger Mecha or something like that. Now, I will say the downside to this and what I don't like, but again, that comes from growing up and loving Power Rangers during the 2000s and all that, is the one combination I am not a fan of is a Gigant with Dime Volcano and Neptune and Tiramigo. Like I miss seeing all 5 or all the Rangers mecha coming together in some sort of cool way. And I feel like they can get away with that still. I feel like that's something we don't need to shift away from just yet. Like, I can excuse it in like Kyoryuger because 3-piece mecha and then you had the wings on. Okay. But like, I have to say this year and in Q Ranger, it left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I think I'm with you with that. And also like it's weird because it's a symbolic thing. right?
Right.
I think that's why a lot of people are confused as whether or not green or black are part of the team.
Right.
Because they have 5 knights, right? It's technically a 5 combination.
But it is and it isn't because they don't even use all the pieces. But that's a completely different story.
Right. So it's there, and I think they are united as a team. But there's a difference. It's a different feeling when you have 5 different components coming together into one robot versus a really cool robot that gets pieces tacked onto it.
Yes.
And then everybody jumps in.
Yes.
I don't hate it. I like it a lot, but it's a different aesthetic and a different feeling.
And you could get away with it in certain cases, I feel. But I feel like if Gigan was 3 knights and Neptune, okay, I'd be able to accept that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
But the fact that it's reds, golds, and the first auxiliary mecha, and they're doing it again later on, with a pterodactyl, and like I look at things like that, and I'm like, eesh, like that's a thing. But then I'll look at things like the combination with Teramigo, Pakiguru, and the pterodactyl, and I'm like, okay, now I like that a little bit more because that reminds me of Bakuretsu Kyoryujin.
That's
like,
cool.
okay,
that's a cool combination.
Right, and you're utilizing you're utilizing things in an efficient manner. Whereas I feel like they haven't taken advantage of that with this season. And man, this is turning into a more of a Ryusoulger discussion than anything.
It's in prep of next year. I think they all kind of tie together.
it all tie back. But I feel like they're not using that as, especially when you see what people in Japan are doing with these mecha. I don't feel like they're
crazy combination.
Like, yeah.
I will say that there's every part of me believes that the finale is going to have some kind of last minute
throw everything
we have left.
It's going to have your duo eagle gorilla whale combination. It's going to have your siren Patra and Ichigo kind of thing. That's another thing I think we've come to, especially it's a big rider thing. But Sentai started doing it. Is what's the last episode going to do for us? And
the 11th hour transformation / robot combination.
Yes, and I feel like we'll get something to a big CGI thing to that degree.
Yeah, I mean they in the Ryusoulger movie they make that giant ridiculous sword with the leftover parts for 5 nights.
That's true.
It's just you can't really have it hold it in the toy because it will fall.
Yeah, you need some actual strings to make a stand for it.
But they did it. Like it's there. I don't know if they're ever going to use it again, but probably not. But they have it.
Right.
So I could see like something like that. But I definitely agree with you that there's as much as I love the show and I love the toy line, it's definitely not a perfect season by any means, and there are things that they probably should do and maybe aren't doing for either a cost reason or just not really looking at that the way that they should.
Right. And I feel like it's kind of a cost reason because
I would say it's probably a cost reason.
Because you have to look at, okay, we either need to render something completely new in CGI or we need to make this tack on, actually combine in real life. And the toys aren't the suits. So that's not going to happen.
Right. I mean, they did create a couple of different add-on attachments to different suits already.
Right.
And I think that probably maxed out what they wanted to spend.
Yeah.
Which is why I think the final quote unquote, because I think there are things that we haven't seen yet, but King Ryujin is essentially just Gigant with a new torso, because I think they only wanted to spend money on making a new torso.
Yeah.
They're not going to make another costume for the legs. It's going to be the same leg costume with the new torso costume. So,
right, and you could do things like throw in the raptor sword or the raptor gun, or
absolutely.
You're doing the arm swapping without doing the arm swapping.
Exactly. So I think basically we're probably going to see for Kirameiger something similar to this, just not this exactly.
Yes, I agree. I think our mecha. I don't think we're going to get a Buster Ace or a Teramigo as the main mecha, and it can operate on its own. I think we'll go back to maybe the 3-piece mecha in a sense, but Red's going to take up the bulk of it, and we're going to have not arm swapping, but arm swapping. We're going to have maybe kind of what Kyoryuger did in a sense, but a little bit more recent, where you have the other 4 Rangers, kind of combine with it in sort of ways, but Red is always there in a sense where in Lupat, Red and the I can't think of his name. Goody was always there,
right?
But you could swap out the arms, and do something different with it.
The other thing I don't see making a return probably is collectibles that are required to join the mecha together.
Yeah, so like the heads, for example, of.
So I don't know about the heads, but because for Ryusoulger, the collectibles are the heads, but they don't impede. If you take out the head, you could still make the robot. It just doesn't have a head.
Right.
I'm talking more like for Q Ranger, the Q Tama.
Oh yeah, so something that it's vital to the combination.
If you don't have the Q Tama, you can't make the mecha. Even like going with Kyoryuger, if you don't have Judenchi, it's possible, but it scares me.
So So do you mean in the terms of of playing with the toys or the show? Because like none of my Kyoryuger mecha have their Judenchi like in them when they're.
Well, see, I don't like doing it, but I guess both in the show and in toys.
Because the Judenchi doesn't really connect anything, so it just presses buttons.
Q Ranger, I guess, is what I had on my mind.
Right. Now that makes more sense. I wasn't sure, because I wasn't sure which one if you meant like in a show sense. Yes, I get you there. Right. But like with a toy sense, I was like, well, you can still do it with Kyoryuger. So yes. I wasn't sure what you meant. But no, that makes
probably misspoke. But yeah, but I think we're probably done with that.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Keeping them separate to a degree.
Yeah, like the Ryusouls, I think work because they do. You can use all of them with the mecha.
Yes.
And make your own head combinations, whatever you want, and then they also display nicely on their own.
Can I just say how mad I am that all these auxiliaries have their own heads, but Biri doesn't? Like that just makes me so mad.
Yeah.
Just a small tangent.
So I think that is something happened in design process.
I feel like that should have been the helmet for Gigant Kyuryugen.
Me too.
Just saying, but
me too. My thought is because we know from the toy catalog, Biri is supposed to be Spino Thunder's soul.
Yes.
But in the show, they don't use the soul in connection with Spino Thunder. It's just Gold's armor.
Right.
So maybe they'll touch a little bit more on that. My thought is maybe it was planned to be another head, and they just couldn't make it work with the way that they wanted the line to go.
Right. No, and that makes sense. I just a little
but
side.
It's a little bit weird because all the other Kyo Souls have a new head. And you could have done a little bit different, even if you couldn't make it like a head. Like the guy soul is similar to the other souls, where it doesn't have a face, but it's guy soul's head.
Right.
So they could have done it. I can't. If you were to throw out a guess of collectibles for the Magi Ranger Gohonger Sentai that we might get, what would you think it would be?
Oh, jeez. So, I mean, it's hard to not say souls because that would work so perfectly.
Yeah.
I think, this is doing what they did in Gohonger and doing the souls of their partners and all that. I think it's so hard not to go that route, but I feel like that's way too similar.
Yeah.
But look at Ryusoulger, and I think enough time has passed since Go-Onger, but then again, they don't ever really repeat anything to that extent.
Right.
Like we've repeated cards 3 times in Kamen Rider, but they've all done different things. So, and cards are something that you can repeat, but like, I don't see them doing a soul that has their partner inside it. I would love it to be that, but I think that's way too similar. It is verbatim. Like Ryusoulger,
it's a little too similar.
Ryusoulger is Kyoryuger in every aspect, but it isn't. Like like I said earlier, I think I said it before the call, but you know, the main weapon is in the shape of a dinosaur, and you put the gimmick item in it that has a dinosaur and an element kind of a thing attached to it, and you chomp the head twice to summon your weapon. Like that's
bullet points on paper, they are incredibly similar. Execution is different because it has to be for you to not go crazy with it.
So I don't see them doing the souls as much as I'd like to do it.
My gut, if we're going to take the hints as any kind of thought process, I would say maybe the Honko, maybe there will be a Honko like item because it's about the size of a Judenchi, right? Maybe we'll have each Mashin will have their own symbol,
right?
And the symbol will be on the bottom like a stamp, and maybe their transformation device is like a Digivice, and maybe it's like a barcode kind of situation where you stamp into the device, and then that.
I'm trying to think if we've ever done anything like that, but I don't think we have.
No, it would be really cool though.
It'd be basically the internal workings of a Judenchi, a Ranger Key,
right,
kind of thing, but you would maybe see it kind of on the outside. I feel like we've had something like that, but maybe we haven't, and there's so many things.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess it would kind of be like O's with the medals.
Okay. Yeah.
Where there's like a.
I think a scanner would be cool if you did a scanner.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
Like Deno did the same kind of thing where maybe there's not really a barcode, but each collectible has a different recognizable.
Maybe more like Wizard.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, and not just because it's Wizards, but you have that. Everything's programmed in. I mean, because Sentai, you don't really ever have. Very rarely, if ever, have you ever. I mean, shurikens, but you know, do you ever have the gimmick, item, make the sounds? And then
they like to keep it low cost.
Yeah, I mean, engine souls, shurikens. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
There hasn't been a lot, and the engine souls don't have a lot really going on.
And because that was the early days.
Pun intended.
Yeah. Because that was the early days of that gimmick.
Sounds, but that's really it. I could see that like a scannable item. Because we kind of had that. I mean, this is going deep cut, and I'm sure you remember when the batteries came out for Dino Charge. You had the phone app where you could scan them to kind of have an online collection of them.
And they kind of do that in a sense. I don't know to what extent, but they do that with Kamen Rider with the QR codes. Now I don't know what they do, but
they unlock. In Gumbarizing, they unlock whatever that is in the game for you.
That's what I figured it had something to do with Gumbarizing, but I mean...
And sometimes I know for the the Switch games, they will also be able to unlock those forms on there, I'm pretty sure. I don't want to be quoted on that, but I think you could do that too.
That would make sense. But I think a scannable something, I don't see them... I see them maybe backing it up a little bit with the gimmick. I don't see them having. I think if we were to get, like the scannable gimmick, like let's for the sake of it just say like it's like Wizard Rings. Let's say it's like that, but it's obviously not going to be that. Let's say it's like Wizard Rings. I see us getting 4 Wizard Ring sets or 4 sets of those, and then you have maybe 2 or 3 for like maybe 2 for like a special, kind of like the 2 Raptors, and for like a final thing. But I don't see Gashapon diving in, or Candy Toy diving into doing these gimmicks. I'd say maybe, it'll be like Loop Hat. We'll get the tiny versions of everything, but I don't think we're gonna have a big collectible gimmick like we did this year. I think
they probably will taper it off. I mean,
this year was pretty big for collectible gimmicks.
Yeah, for sure. They've tapered off the Ryusouls for Gashapon and Candy. Like the last set for each of them are repeats, basically.
Yeah, and then before that, we've only had like 1 or 2 new ones.
Yeah, so what I think even if they did include them, it wouldn't really be to anything ridiculous. Like if you included maybe 1 or 2 in among 5 sets, that's not really that crazy,
right? But I think it's more. I think it's more so we're not going to see, what do we have? How many Ryusouls do we have? Like, I don't see it being that big.
Let me turn around and count.
Yeah, right.
There's a good 40 something at least.
I don't see it going that big. Like I don't think so either. I think we're gonna. I can't even think of something comparable, But I don't think we're gonna get that much of a. I think if anything, it'll be like the DX line of Q-Tama.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
Not, we obviously had a ton of Gashapon. We obviously had a ton of Candy Toy. We still never got all of them. But I see it being, your buckle is going to come with one. Your weapon is going to come with one. But I don't see it being a maybe 20 to 25 max. And it depends on how you do the mecha and all that. So heck, you could even scale it back to maybe 15 to 20,
Right. I mean, if they do it like Shinkenger did with because their collectible was the heat end discs.
Right.
But they weren't they didn't feel like a collectible at the time to me.
I think that's because it was still the early days of collectibles. I think Go-Onger, Shinkenger, Go-Sager were like the early days of it. Because even with Ghost, did we end up getting every card in Go-Sager? Maybe we did.
I want to say if we didn't get every card, we got most of them. It was just some of them were impossible to get.
Right, because I mean, like the 4 the 4 dragon heads were. Like I don't even remember, because those were over 4 different impossible ways, and they all look different. So like
it was fun to collect them.
Oh yeah. Really. But like that, for example, like I feel like that was a card you had to get like a Gombarizing machine,
Yep.
And then you had all the Super Sentai ones. But like I think the first comparable gimmick was Ranger Keys, and then Judenchi, but nothing's ever. I feel like nothing's ever been to that degree. Like
no,
Judenchi, yes, to a degree, but Judenchi are. I mean, in a sense, you buy all the reds, you have basically all of them. You buy the DX line of Judenchi, you basically have them all, because the Gashapon and Candy Toy, while aesthetically looking different, the interiors are the same. They don't give you any new sounds. You don't. I mean, other than a couple of your 6th Rangers that did it, but I think most of them came out I think every unique sound that would have been in the show came out in the DX line.
Yeah, no, I think so. And with the Ryusouls, there's so many different sounds. And it's a good thing, and it's also like a problematic thing. It's good that you're rewarding. Like I feel rewarded when I buy the candy version of Red or the Gashapon version of Red, because it's the same sound, and that makes a different sound than Deluxe. That's cool. At the same time, they look almost exactly the same.
And other than the codes on the back, the numbers, you don't know the difference other than the little paint app differences.
Exactly. So I think I like this.
And it's overwhelming. And it's overwhelming.
It is a little overwhelming. I think I would like them to, as you said, it's probably going to be a little bit scaled back. I don't want them to scale back completely because then I'm scared of us getting into another Lupat situation.
Oh yeah, I think you could find that healthy middle ground.
Yeah, they have. I think they have to. Because I think one of the reasons Lupat didn't do well is because there is no collectible, and what sucks is a season about people collecting stuff.
Right. It was ToQger, but I feel like it was ToQger not done to. Well, I guess it kind of was ToQger because ToQger really didn't have any, trains that weren't a part of the Mecha collection unless they were Super Sentai, or they were like a promotional item. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where it's like they kind of followed in the footsteps in a sense, but
But the problem is the reason the way that they didn't is that with ToQger, everything that you collect is the same size.
Yes.
And for the most part, it can connect to the mecha.
Yeah.
But in Lupat's case, all of the mini vehicles don't do anything.
Yeah.
They make their sound, but then they don't interact at all. I think it would have been a completely different situation if all the mini vehicles made weapons.
No, yeah, I agree.
It would have been a whole different story, I think.
Right, but I wasn't even tempted to find the ones from the movie because it's like, well, they don't do anything, and I don't even think they were in the movie for that, if all, for that long.
Nope. Yeah, it's a weird thing. So I agree with you. I didn't have to scale back. I don't think, kind of like the same situation where we probably aren't going to see a 5-piece combination again.
Mm-hmm.
In the same that we've had. I don't think Sentai can exist anymore without a very visible collectible.
No, I agree. I think you have to do it, and you have to do it right. Like, I think I can't think of anything like, other than going with Kyoryuger because it's the obvious answer. But I don't even know if Kyoryuger did well because of the gimmick, Like, did that do well because of the gimmick, or did that do well because fun dinosaurs,
Right. I would say it's a combination.
Right. It's well enough for them to do a bunch of Super Sentai Souls and do all the Daeboth ones and do all the empty ones. But, I'm looking at like a poster of all the Reds, and I can't think of a gimmick other than Kyoryuger that you could is a reasonable, I guess you could say, gimmick to collect,
Yep. No, I agree.
Kamen Rider, I could look at that and be like, oh, this was reasonable, that was reasonable. But I think the other thing to like we kind of said, you go any further back than Gokaiger, I don't think it's a real fair comparison because the gimmick items really didn't start until Go-Onger, and they weren't really a heavy thing. And Go-Onger was what year? What Sentai was that? What rider was that with?
Kiva.
So it was the same thing with Kamen Rider. You had a gimmick, but it was self-contained in the toy line.
Yep.
And then you casually grew from that. Goseiger and Shinkenger were very much the double and O's, even though they weren't at the same time. A very tamed gimmick, and it wasn't until Astro Switches and Ranger Keys that it really started blowing up.
That's a great comparison, actually. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, it's hard to say, hey, it should be like this, because for the last 10 years, it's been very inconsistent with Super Sentai. Whereas I feel with Kamen Rider, you can make that comparison.
Yep. No, that's a good point.
Because you had big gimmick, no gimmick, two sizable gimmicks, whatever Ninja was doing, no gimmick, I would say. Yeah, no gimmick for Zyuohger, I would say. I'd say that there was no gimmick again.
Yeah, no.
Unreasonably ridiculous gimmick that wasn't even finished. Kind of gimmick, but not really a gimmick with Lupat, and then big gimmick again. So there's one healthy, there's one, maybe two healthy middle grounds. And Sentai's hard to look at that and say, hey, this is what we should do. Right. It should be like this season, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I also think it's going to depend on what do the mecha actually look like.
Right.
Because it's a big contributor.
Thought, and they haven't really done a lot of mecha with heavy electronics, but maybe if you have the scannable gimmick, could you make that scannable gimmick incorporate with the mecha?
I mean, that would be great.
Maybe Reg's chest is, I'm thinking like Gingaman's mecha, and you have like the big chest piece in the middle. Like more so with like the lights of, and again, I'm sorry, I don't remember the names from Gingaman, but like the lights of Orion power up. Mm-hmm. You have that big chest, and maybe it's like a crystal red interior that lights up. And you can take the ring and scan it in front, and then it does something. It gives it like a power, like an attack, you know, kind of like with Kyojujir.
I mean, it's interesting you say that because the name of the show does have shine, sparkle in it. So
right,
you know, I maybe that is something the gimmick will do. It's a light activation gimmick, maybe, but something that is scannable. I don't think you can do the gimmicks anymore, or we really haven't done them where they don't interact with the mecha in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, the Loop Hat toys, that's a big downside for me. I don't hate them, but I certainly would rather if all the mini vehicles that I bought actually did something.
Right. No, I agree.
You know, like the Ryusoulger kind of do that for me. They work with the weapons, and then they work with the toys. It's not a one-to-one like the other souls that aren't mecha. They all look the same helmet-wise, but at least you can do something with them.
Yeah, at least they serve a purpose.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty... I would say there has to be something involving light or shining, because it's an odd name to pick if not.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Unless, I mean, Japanese fans have been speculating up and down like American fans. I almost wonder, are their suits going to be sparkly in some way?
Like a metallic armor kind of way?
Yeah,
or...
maybe. I mean, it's not something that I don't see them doing. I mean, Q Ranger was, as far as suit design goes, was pretty different. They had that
sparkly with the space thing going on.
So I mean, it's not crazy, and you know, if they're going to be wizards,
you kind of want to sparkle and shine.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much. We could go on for hours, I'm sure. There's so much.
Yeah, I was going to say we've kind of rambled on. I think we should maybe wrap it up by saying like, okay, here's my dream first quarter, and then maybe call it a day, because we said half an hour, and it's been almost 2.
Yeah. So here's what I see. Important dates, first of all, just to go over things. End of October is when we usually start getting some legitimate leaks, rumors that turn out to be real. Every year it's different. Like we used to get legitimate leaks from third-party distributors. Those people got fired, so that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
But you know, around end of this month, we'll start getting some more interesting rumors. First week of December, first Thursday in Japan, is when the catalog meeting is going to be. You know, Loop Pat did it on the Wednesday, so it could be any time that week that they choose. Then Christmas, usually get an article in the newspaper, and January is probably our cast reveal.
So just for reference, December 1st is on a Sunday this year.
Okay,
so the 4th and the 5th are the Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, so if it's Wednesday, it'll be Tuesday for us.
Right.
And if it's Thursday in Japan, it'll be Wednesday for us. So 3rd, 4th, and 5th, keep a lookout for things.
Right. That's when the information is going to start popping up, and I'd say anytime after that, during or after that weekend, we could see the scans.
Pictures, yeah. I mean, last year it went up pretty fast.
Yes.
And we had actually for whatever reason, South Korea is getting these listings in advance. I'm not sure if it's because they can't physically attend the meetings.
Yeah.
So they get emailed a list, but Ryusoulger we had really early, which is why last year I thought it was fake. Because it came out on like the night before it was supposed to be there. So I thought it was a fake listing.
Right. Speaking of which, isn't Korea airing Ryusoulger now, if not pretty soon?
Yeah, they should already be airing because there's been commercials.
Right. So I was going to say, because that's one of the fastest turnarounds for Korea to adapt a.
Yeah.
They're adapting it the year it's airing.
They love their dinosaurs.
Yeah, and this would. I feel like as far as I'm aware, we didn't see those repaint mecha that we usually see with Q Ranger. I feel like we'll see that with Ryusoulger. I don't know to what extent. Maybe a 3 nights in a repaint.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, me neither.
Okay, as far as what I think first quarter is going to look like, I think we'll have a 3-piece mecha.
Mm-hmm.
With red as the core, as we've said. It'll be red, probably be red, blue, and yellow.
It's been a while since we've done that.
A little bit, yeah.
Other than Loop Hat, but Loop Hat was different.
Very different. So I think it is going to be like a Go-Onger situation. I think red, blue, and yellow will form the main mecha. I think it will be Go-Onger style mecha, but I don't think it's going to be cartoonish. I think it's going to skew more to what Go-Sager did.
Okay.
Where they look like the animals, but they also kind of look like the vehicles that they're supposed to be. That's what I'm thinking. I do think we're going to get some kind of yokai or Japanese mythological creature over things like phoenixes and dragons, just to keep it different, but also Japan focused in that Olympic year. At the same time, I don't think that rules out Western influences. Like, just because we get yokai doesn't mean that they can't also do Phoenix and Dragon if they want to, as other Rangers or auxiliary mechas, that kind of thing. So I think we get that three-piece mecha, which will come out in March. I think we'll get the transformation device, a side weapon. I think we're probably not seeing individual weapons.
I think those days are done. Those days have been done.
Yeah, I think possibly they could do what Mage Ranger did, which is the side, and what Q Ranger did. The sidearm maybe will have different modes, and that'll be the individual weapons. Maybe the collectible, if it is that stamp Honko kind of thing, maybe you can put the stamp onto the staff, and that will activate different transformations. We'll see. So that's what I see there, and then that's going to be March. You'll have your SH figures. You'll probably no action figures, because that's kind of
that's been dead for a while.
A dead thing.
What was that? Tokyo the last time that did it?
Ninja had the boys, but it was basically a favor for Bandai America,
because it was the Power Rangers.
Yep.
Line essentially.
Yep, exactly. So I don't see that. The only way I see them doing any figures is if they suddenly decide that Yudo isn't working, but Yudo's selling really well.
Right, I was going to say, we'll see our Yudo figures for sure.
Yeah, so that I think is fine. And then that's March, and then I think you get, if it's red, blue, and yellow, I think just like this year, I think you'll get green and black as the end of the first quarter, beginning of second quarter, and maybe they'll be on their own. Maybe we'll get like Go-Onger, where there'll be a 6th core mecha that's teased. They don't have to do that, but I think it probably makes sense to, if they're trying to do what Go-Onger did. Whether or not they do exactly that, or they actually have a ranger for every mecha, that I don't know. But I that's what I see the first quarter as. I don't know about you. What about you, Kevin?
So I would actually expect. So, very similar to you, I think we're going to do the whole event for the mecha red, and then and I think we're going to stick with the Olympic colors. I feel like that's something they kind of have to do in a sense. It's like you'd be silly not to do it. That, and we haven't had that color combo in a while. So
since Gonger, I honestly, if nothing else, if that's not the case, I will be surprised.
Yeah. So Green's mecha and Black's mecha, I feel like they can interact with I feel like we're going to get a very Go-Andra-esque situation where we have basically a Gumbaro, and then Gumbaro can combine with Engino. I think it's going to be a very similar situation to that, giving us that Five Knights kind of formation. I could also see that that whatever that mecha piece is to give us that full mecha combination with Black and Green, I could see that being somewhat of an auxiliary for the main mecha. So maybe it's a axes like two swords or something, or two. I'm thinking more Ryusoulger, but like it gives basically maybe armor or something to it. Maybe not. Maybe it's just, but with the combination aspects that we've had, it's kind of hard not to feel like it would do that. But I feel like we'll have two mechas. I feel like by the end of quarter one or end of quarter one, very early quarter two, we're gonna have we'll have two mecha. I think maybe quarter two we'll have the corrugator kind of mecha. Yeah. I don't see us going back to a rush changer. I feel like maybe I feel like it's going to be a staff again. It's been a while since we've done that. Maybe the staff is like their weapon and transformation device, very Gabba Revolver-esque. And maybe they'll have some sort of secondary weapon to kind of go alongside of it. Whether it combines or not is beyond me. But I kind of what you said about putting the gimmick on top. I like that idea. I think I'm going to stick with my scanning idea, though. I would really like to see there being some sort of scanning the item across the weapon and you have like a LED inside that lights up 7 different colors, and whatever you scan into it will do the attack for it. Maybe you put the gimmick item on top for like the main 5, and then they transform, and then you can take it off and scan it, or you can scan other ones that will come with your inevitable secondary weapon, your belt buckle, all that kind of stuff. And then with my other kind of hope, and I don't think it works well if they're being two mecha, but I would like to see the main mecha have the ability to scan those as well. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I'd like to see like the red, blue, and yellow mecha to have that ability to scan those whatever the gimmick item is as well, and then use it as an attack. I doubt you could incorporate that if you did a Gunbaro type of thing with the second mecha. But maybe that just sticks exclusively with the first one, because you technically, like, even though it was a 6 Ranger mecha, you didn't have that ability with, like Terra Gordon or something like that. So
yeah, same with Ryuteo and Q Ranger. Q Reno had the ability. Everything else didn't, and I think that's just because they want to scale down the pricing after the first quarter.
Right.
So like if they do this 3-piece mecha and it's scannable, it'll probably be in the 7,000 yen, 8,000 yen price range.
Right.
But then whatever the Gunbaro surrogate is, it will probably only be like 4,000. Yeah.
Yep. So just a recap. So you have your main mecha with your 3, and then I don't see them being separated in any way like we've had for the last 2 years. I think it's strictly the first mecha, green and black, and then your corrugator as 3 separate mecha, and then you could buy them as a big set. Your changer is also your weapon, some sort of secondary weapon, and a belt buckle, which each include a gimmick item. Your gimmick item set 1 or 2, and then your SH figures and all that kind of stuff. And then, yes. Sure thing. Sorry, my dad was talking to me.
No, it's fine.
But I see it being very, very light, but at the same time, not heavy at the same time. Kind of what we got this year, 2 weapons.
Yeah.
6 mecha, and then kind of in the middle, like we were talking about.
Right. Last thing.
Sure.
Because this has popped up on Japanese boards. Basically, people are, for whatever reason, because they were panicking that Sentai was being canceled, they assumed that Ryusoulger was going to end early for some reason. We don't know. It could still end early. I think it's just going to go till March, and it'll have 48 to 50 episodes as per normal, and then Kirameiger will start. Do you see a possibility of us getting some kind of team-up special like we got last year, and Ryusoulger will end with like 46 episodes, and then maybe they'll do like a 2-episode celebration of the Heisei Sentai teams, maybe something like that, or even like a Dino team-up, because they were suspiciously absent from the Psycho battle.
So I think the show will wrap up at let's say, when did Ryusoulger start? What was the date? Like, do you remember? It was
17th, around there.
So it was the middle. Okay, so my thought is maybe end of February is when Ryusoulger ends, and then we do kind of what they did. I think it was with leading into Wizard, or it was Wizard leading into Gaim, but they brought back Decade. Yes, but they brought back Decade and a couple other riders for some big thing. So I could see them doing your quadruple Dino crossover, and then at the end your Kirameiger come in, and you have your big kind of like a versus movie in a sense. So you have you have your big crossover thing of maybe where were the other 3 Dino teams and all that kind of stuff. You bring back Daigo, you bring back Yuta, you bring back or Geki, you bring back a couple of of Rangers. I mean, geez, they got all 3 Reds back. I don't see why they couldn't do that again. I couldn't see why they couldn't get the whole Kyoryuger cast back, considering they came back for 33.5. I know Amy's actor stopped acting, but that's kind of what.
So did Gokai Pink's actor. So.
Right, but that was their claim to fame. So I can't see them. If they asked them, I'm sure they would come back. I mean, we've had Black's actor came back for a Kamen Rider movie, so we know he's still doing it. I'm sure Daigo's actor is still doing. He was Forky in Toy Story 4. Uchi came back in. He came back in a crossover movie. And he had to use the Brave Kyoryu Gold stuff because it was repainted. So I can see them bringing back maybe all the Kyoryugers, and then a couple of. Well, I mean, even the Jew Ranger I could see coming back, because don't all of them kind of go out now and do cons and stuff? I mean, 4 of them. I mean, 4 of them have been in the US.
I've met most of them.
Right.
They definitely are very into it. Yuta and Reiko, especially.
Mainly, yeah. Right,
but everybody is kind of involved now.
Right, so I could see the majority of them. I mean, I think everybody came back in some sort of degree for Go Busters versus Kyoryuger, except for Abariello of your main core team.
Yep.
Didn't everybody come back to a degree? Like they either did a voiceover or their actors were there.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, everybody was back except for her, I think.
Right. So I could see them doing basically I could see them doing some sort of quadruple Dino crossover. And then while they're fighting at the very end, you get your one of your maybe Guy Zorg comes back, or one of your bad guys comes back, and very much like in Kyoryuger versus Go Busters, and says, haha, I'm back. And then the Kirameiger come in for 2 minutes. They display themselves like they would in a crossover movie. And then boom, we'll see you next week kind of thing.
No, I agree. I think that's a very, very big possibility. Just because, as much as I'm enjoying Ryusoulger, I think there's a very, unlike in Lupat, and this is Lupat's downside, Ryusoulger has a very clear plot that it will be getting to.
Right.
And once it hits that plot, I think there's, not a whole lot left. We know where it's going.
Yes.
Once we find out who Guy Solg is, it's basically we're leading into Endgame territory.
I mean, we're hitting the 30s pretty soon.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because Ryusoulger is going to become very plot based, where that's where Lupat was lacking, but Lupat really had it in the character aspect, where Ryusoulger is lacking is in the likable characters kind of thing.
Absolutely agree.
So I think we'll see something to that degree of what we were talking about.
Yep, agree. Okay, I think we've prattled long enough.
Thank you for everybody who maybe lasted this long. If
when you but I mean, it's exciting. Sentai is not canceled. You can stop.
Yay. So,
burning your
okay,
houses.
hold on. So just to clarify, because we didn't talk about this. So this is the 45th team, but the 44th season?
Yes. Another thing that Lou Pat will haunt us with forever.
Right.
Here's the funny thing. I have people message me on Twitter like daily about how next year is the anniversary. And I'm like, well, it's not, though, because Sentai has not celebrated the anniversary as how many, like the actual anniversary for a while.
Right.
We celebrate, I say we, they celebrate based on what number season it is. So
right.
Next year is the 44th season. It doesn't matter that there were two teams in Lupat.
Right.
It didn't make Lupat 2 seasons. It's not like, they split the year and there was one season and then another season and then we're at 45. So
Go Kaiser was the 35th year and the 35th season and the 35th team. And it was the
correct.
And it was the 36th year, correct?
36th year if you're taking Go Ranger as the start.
Right.
That's where it gets complicated because before Go Ranger and Jacker were accepted as Super Sentai,
Battle Fever was your beginning.
Battle Fever was the first year.
And what was it? Live Man was the 10th season.
Yep,
and
exactly.
then they promoted it as the 10th season in some promotional material.
Yep.
So next year is not. They might do something kind of like maybe kind of like Ryusoulger did, and I feel like another season did it recently, but I don't know. They might do it like very Ryusoulger-esque, where it's like kind of on the nose. Oh, and Ninja, where it's on the nose, like, hey, it's an anniversary. But we're not going to get.
They might do it exactly like the Ninja because of it being 15th anniversary for Magic Ranger.
That's true.
And Ninja was the 10th anniversary. But
right.
I don't. So they'll celebrate those kind of things, but it's not going to be like
Go Kaiser. Right.
That's going to be the year after.
Yeah. Well, that'll be they go by team numbers, not year numbers.
Correct.
But Lou Pat threw a wrench into that. So it'll be the 46th team celebrate if they do something like that, celebrating the past 45 teams on the 47th year.
Right. Yeah.
God, that's so confusing.
Yeah. Basically, what I look at it as, what's the season number? If it's a 5 or a 0, it's an anniversary year. That's the
pretty much
way to remember it. So next year is like season 44. So it's not an anniversary year. And
it seems like the 5 years are where they really celebrate it, and on the 0 years they just kind of softly mention it.
They mention it a little bit.
Yes.
But the next anniversary is really big because it's Go Kaiser's 10th.
Yeah, and we all know that they love to come back.
Yep. I mean, Luke has come back twice this year.
This is true.
So, so next year there'll probably be a Magic Ranger thing. I think they'll probably do a Go Ranger thing because it will be Go Ranger's 45th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's big in and of itself.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do the 45th early because then what do you do for the 45th?
Right. And Toei knows what they're doing. Toei and Bandai know.
Definitely with celebrating anniversaries, I think they've gotten pretty knowledgeable at it. So I think 45th is going to be our like really anniversary celebration, probably back to some kind of core Sentai stuff. It should be interesting to see what they decide to do.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Sorry, I was just checking something because I'm anxiously waiting to being charged for Heroes of the Grid.
Oh boy.
Stage 2 because I backed the second campaign, so I was checking my bank.
The Zeo expansion, right?
Yeah, the Zeo and the Tommy expansion and that big Goldar. I was waiting to see if I got charged for that because it's 10 p.m. But then again, it might be West Coast 10 p.m. You got another couple hours. Yeah, but I was just checking to see if I still had money in my bank account.
All right. Well, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me on. No problem.
We'll be talking again, I think, when the toy catalog drops. I'm hoping.
Yeah, unless we do some crazy live stream where we just throw together a bunch of mecha and sometime next month or this month. and
I'm
want
down for that too.
we want to build crazy mecha or something like that, I'm totally down. But
you know, it would be awesome.
What's that?
An RRR Ryusoulger mecha challenge.
See, that's kind of hard when only Chris and I have the mecha.
And we'll do me, you, and Chris.
That works. That'd be a fun thing to do.
That'd be
Just
cool.
See, and Chris, it'd be fun if we could get the three of us together and bring all of our mecha together, and then be like
crazy stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be insane.
It's an idea for the day.
We have this idea, and we will run with it one day.
We will do it. We'll do it. All right, but thanks again, man, and thank you everybody out there. If again, like Kevin said, if you made it this far, what are you doing with your
like
life?
a mini podcast. It's actually
basically.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, and have a good one.
All right. See you guys. Bye.